helping teams shift their shapes and all other nice tips and tricks. But he was going to introduce the topic himself. One of the top management speakers in the world, one of the top leadership speakers in the world, and one of the most influential people in Agile, Jurgen Appelo.
Thank you so much. Let me fix this so that it starts again. And yeah, all right, there we are. So, good morning, Vilnius. I'm happy to be here. I am also proud to be here because I am one of only 500 people in all of the European Union who knows the difference between the 3 Baltic states. Because I haven't finished that. Let me show you. Let me prove it. So, Lithuania, that is Vilnius, right? And then we have Latvia, which has Riga, and then we have Estonia at the top, and it has Tallinn. Am I right? Yes! I practiced this for 2 days, I could tell you. I'm so happy. No, just kidding. But I'm here so often, unlike other people in the rest of Europe, that by now, after 8 years, yes, I know the differences. I travel around the world quite a bit, and I have people ask me questions all the time. Questions such as this one: How do we motivate our people and improve engagement? I had a conversation with a bank just last week. I was in Luxembourg, with the Royal Bank of Canada. For some reason, they're in Luxembourg. I don't get that. But anyways. And one person said, we have, there are some people that were originally hired to do just one job, like picking up the phone. That's what they were hired to do, and turns out they're not motivated. So what do we do? And I'm like, oh my God. So you hire someone without a sense of purpose and without any control over their environment, any autonomy, without any idea of what they can become in the future. Just pick up the phone and you ask me, how do I motivate them? Well, maybe you can put up a motivational poster in that sandbox that you gave that person. But anyway, all organizations have similar questions. How do we scale Agile principles to larger organizations? How do we grow faster and change faster and be more agile at the same time? Again and again, same questions. And people tell me there's not enough change. We don't see enough change happening. I just heard it yesterday again. My conversation with Fidas yesterday night when we had coffee. Said, well, some people just say they're doing Scrum, but they're not really doing Scrum. There's no real change. They're just saying it because we have to say nowadays that we're doing this, but they're not doing things really. So in my experience, that's because of bad systems. The people themselves, I enjoy working with people. Lots of them are great people, but they're stuck in bad systems, basically. And the whole is less than the sum of the parts. And it should be more than the sum of the parts, right? We want organizations to be more than just the sum of the people. But often it is less. That's a pity. And I am responsible, like many others, for workshops and books and training, etc. And we feel that we don't achieve so much. That's annoying. This is a slide from the version 1 report, State of Agile. Maybe you're not able to read it at the back, but let me just point out the 2 ones that I find fascinating. At the top, the big challenge adopting and scaling Agile is culture. Organizational culture is at odds with Agile values. And the number 4 here is resistance to change. People resist change. I hear that all the time. People resist change. And then some Agilists, some Agile coaches say, no, people resist being changed. A subtle difference. And I think, okay, is that right? How many of you have resisted this change? Smartphones. Any people in the room who have still, up till now, resisted using smartphones and tablets? One over there. All right, a celebrity. The fun. Hold on to it. Hold on. Don't give up. I surrendered. I surrendered. How many of you have never played games before on their phones or on their tablets or with other people or on Facebook? One person, two people, oh, maybe three. Okay, wow, that's 3 times more. Wow. How many of you have never used streaming video, streaming audio, whether it's Netflix, Spotify, iTunes, whatever? How many have never used streaming entertainment? Okay, a few more, 5 hands. Wow, wow. Okay, so let's just say anyone who claims that people resist change is just incompetent. Oh, I'm sorry, that has to say incognizant. Incognizant. Difficult language, English, I'm sorry. So that means we don't understand how change happens, how we have to convince people to adopt new behaviors. There's so much we can learn about that. So that's one of my first observations after 7 years of traveling around the world. Everyone wants agility at scale, but nobody, or very few people, know how to achieve that change. We're doing one workshop after the other, and then very, very little actually happens. So I wrote a blog post earlier this year. I said, I've had enough. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of trying to convince people to change, and then there's nothing happening. Because we only achieve temporary fixes usually. We have to learn how that change happens in organizations. I did a bit of research earlier this year into the biggest workplace trends in the world. I read all the reports by the big companies such as Accenture, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, Mercer, Randstad, you name it. They all do their research across CEOs, HR departments, and this is what they found as the trends in the world in workplaces. I'm not going to read them out to you. You can find them yourselves. I'm sure the organization will share the slide deck later. You can find them. 13 global workplace trends, but I find this one interesting. Organizational agility, the redesign of the company. It is on every CEO's mind. They want it. They see the need that organizations have to be more agile. Companies die faster and faster nowadays. Imagine how nervous many CEOs are. So they have to change, and I have some inspiration that I found in a very, very strange corner of the world. Anyone recognize this?
Comme je le veux. Regardez. Hup, hup, hup.
Hup, hup, hup. And then Barbatruc. Was this on TV here in this country? No, not because it was quite big in the rest of Europe. It was a French cartoon. It was translated to many languages. Children's cartoon. Because Barbapapa was the name of the pink blob, and he could change into any form. That was so cool. He could, when he was caught in a zoo, he could just escape through the fence by changing his form. That was fascinating. Here's another one. This is maybe more familiar for some of you.
Hello, Quark.
Who was that? From Star Trek, right. What was the name of the person? Anyone? No Star Trek fans here? It was Odo. He was part of a species called changelings. And they organized a galaxy-spanning community of species, the Dominion they were called. They were a bit a nasty species. They were unfriendly, basically. Everyone had to adore the changelings, basically. And if you did not adore them, then they would blast their planets out of the galaxy. Sort of a United States in space, you could say like that. And it was interesting because Odo could change into any form. He was a shapeshifter. So at one time he was a chair, and another time he was a bottle of water, and that was handy because he was the security agent on the Star Trek space station, Deep Space Nine. He was always after Quark, because Quark was always smuggling things on the space station. Probably you remember this one better. All right, who was that? Terminator, which one? Terminator 2, what model number? T-1000, very good. Ooh, scary one. He could change into any form. At one point he was solid as steel and he could punch someone through the face. That was a ghastly scene, my God, ugly. And at other moments he was liquid and dripping from a ceiling behind somebody's back. So fascinating. These are all shapeshifters. Here's another one. Who is this? Mystique from X-Men, right? A bit more up to date. Did you know that she gets paid $20 million for walking around naked? I get nothing when I do that, I can tell you that. So unfair. Anyways, so these are all shapeshifters. I think this is a great metaphor. It is a great metaphor for companies changing into any form depending on the context. So shapeshifters are the ultimate form of agility. They adapt to the context all the time. So I think in the 21st century, organizations have to be hard and soft. They have to be sometimes liquid, sometimes like steel, sometimes self-organizing, sometimes organized. It depends on context. Sometimes you need to be hard as steel, sometimes fluid, like a liquid. Some examples. Has anyone heard of Holocracy? Anyone? A good number of hands go up. So this is a management model for self-organizing companies. It is quite interesting, has some very good ideas in them, and it would be like 90% self-organized, 90% liquid, I could say. But there's still some command and control, some organization there. For example, it has a constitution of 40 pages that says what to do when you implement Holocracy. Those are the rules, basically, that are given to you. So there's still some steel there. Another example, the Spotify model. Anyone familiar with the Spotify model? Wow, lots of people, right. Everyone is trying to implement the Spotify model nowadays, except that my friends at Spotify tell everyone, don't implement the Spotify model. Even we don't do the Spotify model. Very, very interesting. But it has some good ideas. It has some good suggestions. I think it's maybe 75% self-organized. But the documents and the video, they describe a lot of that self-organization part. But very little they describe of the command and control part. I asked them, my friends over there, who decides who is the tribe lead at Spotify? Oh, he is appointed by management. Is the answer. Well, of course he is. That is still command and control. That is still appointing people in certain roles. So there's always some control in those models. Anyone familiar with SAFe, the scaled Agile framework? Wow. Oh, good number of hands go up. It's interesting. I think it's 50% self-organized, 50% controlled. It's a bit of a mix of both worlds. Lots of good ideas in there, but the framework itself seems a bit rigid. The problem I think with this picture is that it is a static picture. Like it's not shape-shifting. It's not changing. It's like one photo of Odo in the middle of a transformation from being a dog to being a toilet, right? You cannot play with it and you cannot shit on it either, right? That's a bit of an issue with models like this. So, to deal with changing goals, organizations have to change form all the time. That's the theory, that's the metaphor that I want you to keep in mind. Scaling that change. Anyone familiar with this problem? I'm sure you are. Thank God it's not my problem. So I thought it was funny when was it last year? I don't know how long time what they had that referendum in Britain, when some of those politicians said we want to take back our autonomy, and then with the referendum they took back their autonomy, and I thought, did they ask anyone else in Europe if it's okay? Did they ask you here in Lithuania? Can we please get back our autonomy back? They didn't ask me, they just did it. So if you can take back your autonomy at any moment, you never lost it, have you? You already had it, that autonomy. So it's a bit silly. They always had autonomy. It's just that it makes sense to have some decisions made in a central place. That's why we're part of a European Union. It makes sense to do some things across the whole continent. Like I flew here by airplane. It is nice for pilots to know that the rules are basically the same all over the continent, right? That they don't have to deal with different traffic rules in every country that they fly over in just an hour or two. So some things make more sense when you do them centralized. And I give away control all the time, right? I give away control to my assistant who books my hotels and flights, etc. I trust that he's trying to make the best decisions for me. I delegate control and autonomy to my spouse, who picks all the furniture. I have no idea what is the difference between Art Deco, Art Nouveau, Art Dono, whatever. It's all expensive. That's the only thing that I can see. But some things I do not delegate that I think are very important. I have full control there. Like, for example, which streaming technologies we use in our house. We use Spotify Connect, we use Sonos, we use Google Chromecast, we use everything. That I find that very important. That's a decision that I make. And thinking about that, I thought, okay, so this is how I feel about that. I trust that other people make better decisions than I do, because sometimes they are smarter than I am. I also have no capacity to make all of those decisions myself. There is such a thing as decision fatigue. People get tired of making decisions all the time. They want others to make some smart decisions on behalf of everyone. But, like the British, I have the power to change the arrangement at any moment. I can take back control. So, okay, from now on, I will book my flights and my hotels myself. Thank you so much, Brandon. Great working with you for 2 years, but I'm going to take back control. I can do that if I want it. And I can make sure I give and take that control fast. Switching should be easy. This is the big problem for the British. Number 4, is it going to be a soft Brexit or a hard Brexit? My God, after so much time, they still don't know. Because it's so difficult, that change. So I think that is a more agile approach, and some of these decisions, as I said, have to be made by others. That we could call that command and control if we give that authority to management and say, well, you make some decisions on behalf of everyone. We could call it self-organized if we say, well, the teams make their own decisions. The teams make their own decisions. And some people say that this is. And by the way, sometimes it should be in the middle, of course, a bit of a balanced approach. And this is the traditional approach. This is traditional. Traditional companies make a lot of decisions on this side, very command and control. I agree. We have to get rid of that traditional way of managing companies. But is this agile? Is this? On this side, is that what Agile means, that we self-organize all the time with everyone? I'm at Agile conferences quite a lot, Scrum gatherings, whatever, and sometimes I hear people say, well, let's get rid of all the managers, we can self-organize as a whole crowd and make all the decisions ourselves until the whole company is one huge crowd of dot-voting hippies, basically, right? I don't really agree with that. Sometimes you need somebody to take charge. Like when the ship is sinking, you expect the captain to give orders. and not dot vote about who goes in which of the boats, right? Because that could take a while. No, somebody is trained to take charge in such a situation. And he gives instructions and then leaves the ship last, right? Unless it's an Italian captain, perhaps. Sorry about that. So I think agility is this. Agility is in the middle, right? I think that switching back and forth, that is what Agile means. Sometimes self-organized, sometimes controlled. It depends. Figuring out what you need in which moment. So I say at one point, stop your Agile transformation right now, because I saw lots of transformations that are basically big projects to go from that side to that side of the diagram with Holocracy or whatever. Great. So you turn from a metal into a liquid. And then what? Maybe next year you have to be a solid metal again. You'll do that endlessly. You'll need an Agile transformation every 3 months, if that is your definition of an Agile transformation. So I think agility means self-balanced, not only self-organized. Framing the change. Next insight that I have. I noticed that 18 months passed between versions 4 and versions 4.5 of the scaled Agile framework. Does that sound Agile to you? A release every 1.5 years. And 3 years passed between versions 2.13 and 2.16 of the Scrum Guide. That's 3-year iterations. Seems a bit silly to me. So, and the same with Holocracy. These documents are updated every couple of years. I understand that because they're documents, they're PDFs, and you don't want to do that every week. But we have new insights all the time with frameworks that we use. I would like to see updates more and more frequently. And when things are difficult to release, then in the Agile world we often say, do it more. Do it more often. If a release is painful, then do it every week. You will learn how to make it easy. You learn how to make it easy. So we should be doing the same with frameworks. If it is difficult to release a new framework every 2 years, then release it every week. Figure out how to do that all the time. That would make them more agile. Create a technology or something. So I have this quote from the Scrum Guide. Scrum's roles, artifacts, events, and rules are immutable. You can't change them. Although implementing parts of Scrum is possible, the result is not Scrum, they said. As Vaida said yesterday, some people are only doing stand-ups, and they say, oh, we're doing Scrum. No, it's not Scrum. I agree with that. I understand the frustration of Ken and Jeff. People say, yeah, we're scrumming. Look, we have a stand-up meeting. And oh my God. No, it's like someone runs 2 kilometers around the house and said, yay, I did a marathon. That's not a marathon. That's a 2-kilometer run. You got started preparing yourself for a real marathon. That is great. But it's not a marathon that you just did, right? So if you only do stand-ups, you're not doing Scrum. Maybe you're on your way to doing Scrum. But the problem then is, if this is the message, you only do it right when you do everything, then people have the tendency of implementing a whole framework, doing safe, rolling it out in the organization, etc. And then it basically becomes push instead of pull. Then the framework pushes all those ideas in the organization, and that also is not the right approach. I had a conversation with Ron Jeffries a couple of weeks ago at the big Agile conference in the US, one of the signatories of the Agile Manifesto, and we came up with the concept of the metaphor of radio stations. I said it's like listening to a radio station. When I was young, 13, 14 years old, I listened to the radio every day, and it was all top 40 kind of music, pop music, and that was my world, until I found out that some music I liked more than other music. Basically Italian and German disco music that I loved more than everything else. Yes, I'm sorry, I have a really bad taste. But they hardly played it at the radio, so I had to find alternative sources to find that in the specialty stores and swapping cassettes and CDs with other people. So I had to create my own little radio station, as is very normal nowadays with Spotify. Basically, anyone can create their own radio station and their own playlist. I think that is a nice example of how we should look frameworks, because the frameworks are basically radio stations with good practices, and there's a DJ there who selected the good practices for you and said, now you listen to my radio station, my framework. But you're not supposed to listen only to that radio station and listen to the entire playlist. That makes no sense. You just pick and choose from any amount of radio stations. So I have a bit of a problem with the way frameworks are presented. I think they have lots of good ideas, but the packaging is pretty bad. It's pretty old-fashioned, and it gets people to do things in a silly way, like we have to listen to the entire radio station. No, that is not the goal. So I want to turn the big picture frameworks into small picture roadworks, basically. It is never finished. You're always working on your organization, picking and choosing from Holocracy and SAFe and Manager 3.0 and Scrum and Nexus and whatever is out there. But that takes more time. All right, so I painted a picture of why we want change, the organization shape-shifting, and picking and choosing from various sources. Now let's dive into that, how we adopt those behaviors, how we implement those ideas from many different sources. This is an interesting backstory. I was in New York last year promoting my last book, Managing for Happiness. I was at Union Square, I remember well, minding my own business, reading a book or something like that in the evening on a park bench. There were people from all over the world around me. Lots of languages and skin colors and body types and you name it, but everyone was playing this game. It was insane. People were walking around with their smartphones, trying to find monsters, talking with strangers. Do you have this monster yet? I'm looking for this monster. Oh, there's one over there. A Snorlax appeared. Run before it's gone. In 10 minutes, it's gone. So, and I was sitting there on that park. So, what the hell is going on here? The world has gone insane. And at the same time, I thought, I, as an author and speaker and workshop trainer, like many others, are trying so hard to get people to change and adopt new behaviors, and it's so difficult to convince 500 people to implement Scrum. It takes years. And then within 3 weeks, millions are playing Pokemon Go. It's unfair. It's unfair. How do they do that? I want millions of people within a couple of weeks to use my materials, right, all over the world. So that is because we have a very traditional approach to offering ideas to people. And the traditional change programs, they usually look like this, right? Starting next week, we will all now implement this new idea, this new framework with these rules. And it says, rule number 1, thou shalt honor thy product owner and scrum master. Rule number 2, thou shalt not kill thy customer. Very difficult one for me, right? And on it goes, right? We give people a set of rules to follow, and that's boring, right? That's not hunting monsters, which is much more fun. Right? So it made me think at one point of my quest to become a runner. I run nowadays. I'm very happy and proud about that. 3 runs per week, 12 to 15 kilometers each time. That's in total, that would be a marathon per week, if I could say it like that. It took me a couple of years to achieve that, but in the beginning, I had to learn how it worked, because my first run was terrible. After 7 kilometers, everything hurt. My whole body. I discovered muscles I didn't even know that existed in my body. I had to pause for a week or two and then start all over. So I thought, okay, maybe I should learn how to do this well. So I read a couple of books, and this was one of the books, The Running Formula by Daniels. It says, page after page after page after page of rules. Run 5 kilometers in the second week of the third phase, and then on the next day you have a break, and on the day after that you do a long run of 10 kilometers, but slowly, and then the next day, and I was, oh my God, this was so demotivating. It is no surprise that the author's name is Jack Daniels, because I needed a whiskey, but... I think they sell more whiskey with that book. Nobody runs, everyone is like, oh my God. My God, for Christ's sake. This is how we offer frameworks to people. Next week on Monday you do a planning meeting, and then on Friday you do that, and it should take 2 hours, etc., etc. So, not surprisingly, that doesn't work that well. This kind of change, these are all the problems I found with traditional change programs. They don't work, basically. They don't work. We need something else. We need something better. I like this book by Jane McConigal, who said, all of the neurological and physiological systems that underlie happiness are fully activated by gameplay. See that? Games make us happy. That's why we love playing games. Because they are built to make us happy. And we pay those people who make games for us. And then we do those games and we ask them for more because it's so much fun to play them. So what is it that people do in games? Let me give you an example. So this is World of Warcraft. And in World of Warcraft, people explore. They go around searching for knowledge and having experiences and practicing a little bit and finding a team to hang out with and finding a purpose. Oh, maybe we should attack that dragon over there. Oh, that sounds fun. Okay, fire! And then it's like Scrum. A Scrum project started. And then we do one sprint after the other. Oops, there goes the Scrum Master. And then we do another sprint and another sprint. And finally, we have a release ready, and we bring it to the customer, and the client says,
"You're too late, old friend. No more Garrosh. Just you and me.
But
I challenge you to Makora."
he gives you a new project, despite the fact that you were too late. So this is typical, right? This is what we do in games. It's a lot of hard work that people do. As Jane said in her book, game developers know better than anyone else how to inspire extreme effort and reward hard work. And in World of Warcraft, the average playing time is 22 hours per week. That's absurd. That's half of a normal work week that people invest. And then we pay them instead of them paying us for doing all that work. So it must be really enjoyable, right? So gamification is the idea of applying game design elements and principles in non-game contexts. That leads to organizational productivity, learning, etc., etc. So I am not talking about serious games. Like I have some in Management 3.0, delegation poker, moving motivators, etc. Those are games that you can play and you can learn something from that game. But itself is not productivity, right? Gamification is doing actual work, but adding some things to it to make it feel like you're playing a game or like you're enjoying the actual activity. An example. This is a typical gamification trick. It is called "Don't Break the Chain," or there's another term for it. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Don't break the chain. Seinfeld used this when he was writing comedy for his 9-year-long comedy show on TV. Every day he had to write comedy jokes. And when he wrote jokes, he gave himself a sticker, or he ticked it off on the calendar, said, yes, I wrote jokes today. Don't break the chain. Or a streak, that's the other word I was looking for. Extend the streak for as long as possible. So apparently, David broke the chain here. What was wrong, David? What happened here? This is a magnificent trick to use with children. Just give them a box of stickers, and give them a calendar, and give them one rule. You can only put a sticker on your calendar, one per day, if you brush your teeth. Or something like that, right? Oh, then it becomes fun. So that's a typical gamification trick. Now, some people have not so good ideas about gamification. Some people, they try. Like, for example, I was at a conference 2 years ago. Someone from the Netherlands said, yeah, we apply gamification to teams in stores, salespeople basically, where they give feedback to each other, and we have a gamified app to incentivize people giving feedback. Okay, interesting. So how does that work? Well, if you give feedback to her, then you earn a point. So for example, on the app you say, you could have smiled more to that customer. Ding, you get a point. And then you could give feedback to him and then say, well, next time you could be on time at 9 o'clock when we open. Ching, and then you get a point, and he has feedback. Fascinating game. And of course, at the end I asked, okay, so why would people play this game? I asked the speaker. And he said, well, the more points you get, the higher you end up on the leaderboard. Okay. But why would I be why should I be on the leaderboard? What's the point of all those points? Well, to be the winner. Okay, well, this is not getting us anywhere. And I asked, and what about management? Is management also involved in this peer-to-peer points giving? He said, no. Managers just look at the statistics. I said, oh my God. I had a Jean-Luc Picard moment at that point. So this example, it is gamification, but it is only this part of the model called octalysis by Yu-Kai Chu. It's a fascinating model. A guy from South Korea knows all about how games motivate people, and he created this wonderful, complicated-looking model with 8 corners, and then lots of examples, techniques in all those corners. And these techniques, status points, achievement symbols, leaderboards, progress bars, it is all accomplishment. That works for some people. Yeah, some people like being at the top of the leaderboard. That's accomplishment. It motivates some people, but not all of us. It is a rather poor implementation of gamification. There's so much more that you can do. So, for example, I was in, where was it? Melbourne, Australia. Someone asked me, Jurgen, we have kudo cards, thank you notes that people write for each other at the company, but very few people actually write thank you notes or kudo cards for each other. The only kudo card I received was the one that I wrote for myself. Yeah, that's a bit of an issue, I understand that. One trick I learned from that book is that you can play with the amount that you give people. For example, someone had a web form where people could enter their hobbies, and then it was a limitless field, and then on average people gave 2 hobbies, like writing, speaking, submit. And then he thought, okay, what is the effect if I make it 3 separate text boxes? And then it turned out that people used all 3 text boxes. Writing, speaking, running, submit. Ta-da! You just increased the response rate by 50% by making only 3 boxes available instead of a limitless number. This is called scarcity. It is this corner, and this particular technique is called a magnetic cap. You set an arbitrary cap on something. You say there is no more available than this amount, and then interest will go up because there is only a few of it available, and we are motivated by things that are scarce. So for example, the researchers know that if you have 2 cookie jars and one cookie jar is nearly full, and the other cookie jar is nearly empty, most people want the cookies in the nearly empty cookie jar, because there are only a few of them left. They could be the same cookies, doesn't matter. We want those cookies, right? Except for the last one, of course, because that is impolite, right? Except when you're Dutch, then you take the last cookie, I can tell you that. It's the best one, it's the best one. But yeah, so the scarcity motivates people. So I said to that person, I would give every person in the organization only 3 kudo cards, that's it, no more. Reduce the number of kudo cards, make them more valuable. Every person gets 3 cards, and then those will become important, those 3 cards. So instead of writing 1, they might use all 3, because they only have 3, and the response rate will go up. Another example, one person said, Jurgen, we have Friday afternoon, we have a get-together with a drink with the company, and almost nobody shows up. People say it's very important, hanging out with colleagues at 4 o'clock, and yeah, I will be there, but nobody shows up except for the Agile coaches, because they have nothing else to do. That's such a pity, yeah. So how can we increase the turnout rate at those events? And so, well, how can we gamify it? What I would do is, if I was there, I would take a silly selfie. I would not use Vaidas's phone, I learned that by now, but I would use somebody else's phone that works, not mine either, because it never works. So we would take a silly selfie, and we make it as silly as possible, and then we print it, and we have it next to the coffee machine or somewhere where it is public. And every Friday afternoon, we take a new silly selfie with the people who show up. And then let's see what the effect is. I think people are going to have suggestions for how to make the next selfie even sillier than the previous one. But then they will have to be there to make it, right? And then when you have 10 or 15 of those selfies, then people start to notice that some people are never there. Ooh, social pressure, evidence. So maybe they will show up after a while to be part of the selfie, right? So which part of the diagram is that? It's social influence, of course. It's all here, brag buttons, social prodding, nudging. There's no points, there's no leaderboards, but it is gamification. A silly story from my own past, long time ago. When I was 10 years old, I participated in the 4-day swimming challenge in our town. That was 4 nights in a row. The kids had to swim 20 laps in the local swimming pool. And it was not Olympic size like this one, but it felt Olympic size when you're 10 years old, okay? So just believe me. So Monday night, 20 laps, Tuesday night, 20 laps, Wednesday, 20, Thursday, 20, and then you got a medal and you went home. That's very simple. Right? And lots of schools participated in that. When I was 11 years old, I participated again. Monday, 20 laps, Tuesday, 20 laps, Wednesday, 20 laps. And Thursday, I was so tired. I was so tired, and the swimming pool was so big. And I noticed by that time that the teachers were not really paying attention. They were not. They were in the bar somewhere, drinking, whatever. They had probably read Jack Daniel's running book. And they saw, oh, the kids are, nobody is drowning, perfect, fine. We had to do our own counting, basically. So after 16 laps, I just couldn't anymore, and I got out. I was too tired. And I took a shower, I dressed, I took a medal, and I went home. And that medal was burning in my backpack. I felt so ashamed for having taken that medal that I did not deserve, because I did not swim 20 laps. I swam only 16. I was so ashamed of myself. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell not my mother, not my friends, anyone. The year after I participated again, I was 12 years old. I did it again. I swam 20 laps on Monday, 20 on Tuesday, 20 on Wednesday, and on Thursday I swam 24 laps. I'm not kidding. And then I felt proud of myself again. And I took the medal because I earned that year's medal, and finally I also earned that medal of the year before. according to my own rules at least. So which part of the model is that, would you think? Well, I think I felt a hero. It gave me meaning. There's also some accomplishment there, of course, status, but I didn't really show that medal to anyone. It was more for me, it was important. So it's more here in the meaning part of the diagram. So I think these kinds of things are missing from many frameworks, many methods that we use in the Agile communities. There's a lot of boringness actually out there. People beaming PowerPoints at each other, but where's the fun? Where are the celebrations for achieving new skill levels? We don't need more frameworks. We need some fireworks in companies, in my opinion. All right, last part. Why people change. As I said, I started running a couple of years ago, and I will use it as a metaphor for picking up a habit. So we have ideas on what behaviors we want to introduce in the organization, whether it is a planning meeting or a daily stand-up or one-on-ones or measurements, OKRs, doesn't matter. Those are good ideas. Now we need people to adopt them. They have to become habits that we do all the time, that become natural to us, like it is a habit for me to go out and run. Well, this is the famous habit cycle. It consists of 3 parts. It starts with a trigger. Something in the environment will trigger you to start your habit. And you have to be mindful about that. What is it that triggers you? Why do some people start smoking? There is a trigger there that makes them pick a cigarette and start smoking. Why is it that some people start running in the morning? And you can play with the environment. So one person said, for example, if you want to practice playing a guitar, place the guitar next to your favorite chair. So when you go sit down with your coffee, you're like, hey, a guitar. Let's practice a little bit, right? Don't hide the guitar somewhere in a closet. No, you make it available, easily accessible in your room. One other person said, if you want to start running, put the running shoes next to your bed in the morning or before sleeping. I mean, so when you wake up, you stand up, ta-da, you're in your running shoes already. Easy. And then just get out of the house. It would be nice to put on some shorts, by the way. That would be safe. You're not getting paid $20 million probably if you forget that. So so you tweak the environment to make that habit easy and start with a trigger. So what is the trigger that will make people do a retrospective? What is the trigger in the environment that starts a daily stand-up meeting or whatever it is that you want to be doing? Then the second part is the habit itself. It has to be as small as possible to get started with. Don't make it too big, too complicated. Like one person wrote in one of the books, if you want to learn how to run, just walk for 1 kilometer around the house the first week. That's it. You just want to get used to getting out of the house in your running shoes. Who cares about the running? Doesn't matter. Just get out of the house in your clothes. Do a walk. That's it. And then from that point, you can start building it up because you start with a tiny habit. So this is something many coaches don't think about. They enforce 1-hour retrospectives on people, for example. That could be too much. Maybe you start a simple conversation near the coffee machine. You're already standing there, right? Why not have a 5-minute discussion about, so, what's going well, right? What can we do better? Right? And then when you finish your coffee, all right, done. That's your mini retro. And then from that point, you start building it up. Last part of that cycle is the reward. That cycle has to end with a reward, otherwise you're not going to start it again. It will not become a habit. Somehow you have to reward yourself. And this is difficult because some things take a long time to feel rewarding. Like when I started using Uber, the first time it was already a reward. Like I didn't need cash. It came to pick me up instead of me having to find taxi across the city. Wow, amazing experience. So the reward was there instantaneously. But first time I ran, my God, it was punishment. It was not a reward. And it takes a good while for you to feel great because you're exercising. So in the first number of cycles, you'll probably need gamification to reward yourself. Like, the day I run, I earn a chocolate. On the days I don't run, I cannot have chocolate, right? A simple rule, a simple reward that you give yourself. These things work because you have to turn it into a habit, and ultimately you don't need the chocolate anymore because you feel so great. But that is only after 6 months of doing that cycle many, many times. So the reward has to be something you enjoy or something that makes your life more convenient. And this cycle, trigger, action, reward has to happen many times before something actually becomes a habit. So where are the many small rewards we have for small step improvements, small step progress we have in companies? Like you did a small retro near the coffee machine of 5 minutes, reward. So next day we do it again, another reward. And then we will get used to that, we increase it. Okay, now 10 minutes, now 20 minutes. Now let's sit in another room to do that, right? Build it up over time. If doing a 2-hour retro right away is too difficult for you. So don't give people lots of rules to follow. They can come up with their own rules. I have lots of rules for running myself. But it has a habit now. I have turned it into a habit that I do all the time. Examples. Last couple of minutes, I'll give you some examples that you can recognize as gamification. Mario, one of my followers online, said, for a retrospective sprint meeting, I spin a bottle to define which member of the team is going to participate next. Which part of the model, of the gamification model, is that? Sorry? Yes, obvious, right? Unpredictability. We like that. Ooh, the whole gambling industry is focused on this part of the diagram. Unpredictability, ooh, that makes us curious. What's going to happen next time I push that button or pull that lever? Am I going to win or not? So unpredictability. Here's another one. By Nama. She said, in a project with 3 teams, we had one sprint board for all with a different card theme each sprint. Racing cars, superheroes, holiday symbols. So every release, every sprint gets a different name, a different theme. Which part of the model is that, do you think? It's a bit more difficult. Ownership, yeah. I was thinking of another one myself, but I would agree ownership could be good. Meaning, yeah. So meaning was the first one that I thought, because storytelling, heroism, everything is here, giving something meaning that is originally not there. But I would agree ownership would also be a good one. Maybe also empowerment is in there. Another one, I thought this was funny. We have introduced the cake limit in a number of teams I have been coaching. This is from Joachim Sunden from Spotify. And he said, when we have reached 40 items in the done column, here, 40 items, then the only way to resolve this bottleneck is when the product owner buys us cake and have to congratulate us on a work well done. Right? So we will not resolve this bottleneck until we see cake. Which part of the model is that? Accomplishment, yes. And another one. Empowerment, social influence. Yeah, I would guess these two. Maybe more than these two, but my bet is on these. Accomplishment, yes, we're finished, we want to recognize, we're making progress, we want to turn that into a little party with cake, and at the same time, the way we do that is by prodding the product owner, make it something team-based, make it social. But maybe there's some empowerment in there as well. So you can see there's lots of different techniques that you can use to gamify the hell out of boring stuff. So, summary, everyone wants to be agile at scale, but nobody knows how to do that. That was the first observation. I want to deal with changing goals, therefore organizations have to be shapeshifter, changing form all the time. Agility means self-balanced, not self-organized. You don't want to be only self-organized. It has to be a balance between the two. That means we have to borrow a lot of ideas from different frameworks to achieve that. And not one framework is not going to be the solution. It has to be a dynamic playlist from various radio stations that you update all the time, basically. Be inspired by all of them and make progress with fireworks instead of frameworks. That means we have to gamify the hell out of all those ideas that we introduce in the organization. And don't make rules for people. They can make rules for themselves. Help them develop habits as a team, because those are the rules for our brain, basically, that say we do this because it has become a natural behavior for us. That is how I think agility scales in large organizations, and it's all here on one slide, so you can ignore everything else I said and just take this picture and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much for listening. I think we have 2 minutes left or something.
Yeah, we have time for like 2 questions. Anybody wants to ask something?
Anyone has a question in the last 2 minutes? Any questions? Any questions? Yes, over here. Thank you.
Any kudos techniques that you came about and that are good to implement and that bring results?
So do you have any kudos techniques that bring result? Well, in terms of gamification, I found a couple. One of them is, of course, making only a few available so that the value goes up. Making them really colorful and well-designed is important. And one thing that I liked best was writing the purpose of the organization and the values on the kudo cards, so that it is a constant reminder for people why they give each other compliments. Like, this is what we try to achieve as an organization. I give you a compliment because you did something that contributed to the purpose or the values. That would be the meaning that you tie into the kudo card. So that's one of the best things that I found in my travels across the world. All right. One last one.
One more question. One last question.
One last question. Fidas, go ahead.
If no one else,
yes, sure.
I'll try to challenge you. It's hard, but so if you say that Agile is, want to say not self-organized but self-balanced, you should just use that word, and that you have different choices of sometimes you need to be strict and direct, and sometimes you need to be totally self-organizing. So maybe imposing a framework as a strict rule, while then allowing people to be flexible in the middle, is also a way, rather than, as you say, to start a full gamification and throw away framework at all.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would agree that in theory would be possible. So it is your right as a company owner, of course, to say, okay, from next week we're going to do safe, and then we will start adapting, etc. That is indeed how it is intended. I mean, I have conversations every now and then with guys behind those frameworks, and like me, they say this is just a collection of good practices. You pick and choose, but it makes sense as a starting point, and then adapt. I totally agree there. And then you could even say, we will do this. I will force this, because otherwise things are not going to happen. I had that myself many years ago with Scrum. When we tried individual practices, it didn't work, and then I said, okay, forget everything. We do Scrum next week, and from that, then the change happened. But at the same time, you have to be very mindful, careful about people's interpretation of that instruction, because then when it becomes rigid for many people. So at the same time, the manager has to say, oh, by the way, we're going to adapt the hell out of it once we got started. And this is often forgotten. And then they become straitjackets, which is where things go wrong. So yeah, good question. Thank you so much. All right, thank you guys and girls, and have fun at the conference.
Thank you, Jurgen.
Oh,
This
what's
is
that?
a little something to remember Lithuania by.
Oh, thank you so much.
Something we call Lithuanian gold.
It's a-
Gold, I'm sorry.
It's a tree.
Yeah, it's a tree.
Awesome. A
All
tree
right.
in the little bag. Awesome.
Thank you, Jurgen, again. I would like to invite all the speakers that are present to come up on stage, and we're going to do a short, really short introduction of your topics. And everybody who left, I really would like to invite you to come back and to hear what all the speeches are going to be about. Line up and just, you have 1 minute to introduce your topic and then just pass the microphone to someone else. Okay? Okay. You guys know how it's done.
So, I'm the first, right? Should I say something? Yeah. Okay. Welcome to Agile Tour Vilnius! Whoa! Yay! So, thank you for coming. Well, now about my talk a bit. So, we will talk about us, software developers and IT professionals. So we'll talk about our career and how to succeed in our professional life. So I'm going to share something that I have learned the hard way. It's something that no one had taught me in school, and I suffered a lot. So, but that actually helped me. So if you are really interested in learning some career hacks, if you really want to achieve something in your professional life, and I believe that everyone wants, right? So please, welcome to my session. So there will be a lot of fun and some swearing as well. Sorry for that. Welcome. What's your name? Edwards. Ah, exactly. I'm Edwards. So yeah, Edwards. Nice to meet you. I came from Latvia. Amazing country, all right?
Hello, my name is Vaidas. I'm local. I'm a developer. I'll be speaking about comprehensible code in developers track. But even though I'm going to show some code, you don't have to understand how coding works. If you're a manager, or maybe if you even follow this good practice to maybe sometimes write code, please come to my talk, because I will be speaking about things that make code hard to understand without even thinking about design and all those topics that smart people talk. So I'll be talking about editing and how editing can cripple your thinking. So please come to my talk. Thanks.
Hey, so I'm Vilius. I'm having a second talk in dev track, decomposing distributed monolith something. So for the last couple of years, I was working on actually introducing a new stack like Node.js in an organization I work for, Wix. And I found out some interesting stuff, some anti-patterns, and I'm just gonna walk you through what I did, how I solved that. And if you're doing microservices, about to do them, or without even knowing, in a year you might be doing that, then it might be actually talk for you.
Hi, I'm Stani. I have a neck problem today, so I'm a bit like a robot. Don't be afraid. That's just temporary. Interacting with what Jurgen just said, he's talking more about gamification part, and if we look at the other range of this amplitude, we have serious games. So at my workshop, we're gonna play. So actually, we just play for sometimes 5 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, being really deep into story cubes, storytelling, or Dixit cards, or using ropes for some games. Yeah, that's also not scary. And after that, we're gonna talk how we can transfer the experience, the practices we tried in a game into the real life. The challenge of the workshop is that you will be participating and learning how to facilitate it as well. But I'm always here and reachable by LinkedIn, so we're gonna learn both of the stuff and enjoy. The room is quite small, so don't come. In Cambridge, we needed to go outside of the room to the nice lawn, but it was nice weather there, so we're gonna solve it somehow here. It's the latest workshop today. Feel welcome.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Leonardo. I'm a bit far from home, or where I'm originally from, Brazil. Currently living in Dublin, however. And today I'd like to invite you to talk a bit more about Scrum, more specifically Scrum events. And Scrum is the most used Agile framework in the market. And I'd like to share my view and my learnings from the last 5 or 10 years using, working with teams and applying and adopting Scrum. So more specifically in the Scrum events. That's it from me.
Hello everyone, I'm Valdas Maksimavičius and I will be speaking about prototyping. So I specialize in data analytics and cloud migration projects, and over the couple last years I have been leading research and development initiatives. So today I would like to share my 8 painful lessons that I learned along the way. And if you are interested in technology, selection, finding technology limitations, building proof of concepts, prototypes, or minimal viable products, come and join me.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joanna, and I will be talking here, I think, first one, on Agile metrics. Even though this is a management track, I think everybody will get something out of my talk. I will just review some metrics that I used with different organizations, different environments, different teams, beyond any specific methodology, and just analyze pro and cons of them. Please join me.
Hello everyone, my name is Artem, and I welcome you to join, where I'm going to share my experience how I manage the project of almost 200 people and how Scrum and different Scrum practices help me. That's it, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Roman. I'm working for a company called Lietuva. And first question to you, anybody from you works in some kind of corporate? Bigger organizations at 10 people? Great, then come to my topic, and I will just want to share with you how a product owner feels in the enterprise business when there is a lot of customers, product development activities, a lot of stakeholders. We'll have fun for 40 minutes speaking about sharing the experience. Thank you.
Hi, one thing you don't see, which we see, is that we have 500 people reading very carefully your badges. So I'm going to start where I am on the badge. You can find me after the lunch. The lunch is most important part of this conference. And there is Tomasz Wykowski, and I'm going to talk about discovering Scrum principles. How many of you have heard because Scrum says so, or because the Scrum guide says so? Anyone? Yeah, we get this one before. Yeah, we have a Scrum Master coming in with, yes, we need to do the stand-ups. We have this in the Scrum Guide, and you have to do it. So if you want to discover why we want to do the stand-ups, why we want to do some part of Scrum, come join my session. It's going to be rather fun, I hope. Especially that's after the lunch, so I need to make sure I won't put you to sleep after lunch. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Diana, I'm from NASDAQ. How cool is that? So to make it better, I will tell you that my workshop is almost full. It's 20 people already signed, the lucky ones. You still can have 10 spots, so the first come, first served. And it will be fun, you will be rewarded, and you will have a little or no slides to read, and just play. So come and join.
Hello everyone, my name is Valmir. I am from Brazil. I work at Appirin, and my talk will be about, will be based on a blog post I wrote on my Medium account that is called Lessons Learned as a Software Engineer Working at Appirin. And my idea is basically to share some experiences that I have and bring you some good practices that we use to develop our service, and that maybe you can use as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I hope all of us have fun today. And well, let's get some coffee and return here in 15 minutes.
Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3.